welcome to another episode of the Film As We Know It podcast, a show that's run by and for cinema fans. I'm your host, Tim Callaghan, and with me as always is Zach Hamelton. Zach, what have you been up to, man?
Not too much. I've been renovating our, I say podcast studio. It sounds so exciting. It sounds so official. It's really my office, but I really have gone pretty all out, as you can kind of see now. Well, I guess the big thing what I've been up to is setting up video for us, right? I think we've both been up to that. On your end, for the occasional when you can't come over to the podcast studio, we want to make sure that you had a setup, so you worked through that, which is awesome and very MacGyvered that situation with a combination of stuff from your wife, right?
Yep. She's a teacher and she had to do the whole remote teaching. I mean, I'm a teacher too, but she went fancy and got herself a ring light and everything, and it went into a closet and it's never been used, and now it's being used for the first time.
It's been lighting your closet. Now it's lighting your face.
Yeah.
So as you can hear, we're now on video. So obviously we're always going to do an audio version of the podcast. And if this totally failed, then we might still be an audio podcast. But we're going to assume that everything's going well and that all the testing that we just did worked. So you can check us out on YouTube, and we'll post that obviously on all of our social medias if you want to watch us talk to each other. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. It's gonna be great. And then, like I said, so I've been working on our setup. This is an old camera. There'll be a better camera, although honestly, it doesn't look bad. I literally have the new cameras right here that will mount into the studio. And then we've got studio lights as well, which I'm using kind of a pseudo light right now, which is actually working pretty okay. And then I got tube lights to blast a wall with color. We still got a little bit of color peeking in, but try to make it look as fancy as possible. I hung up a couple extra posters. This one, Cry Macho, is new. You got a surly Clint Eastwood in the corner. I've got a flash poster now over where Tim's going to be sitting. You got that lovely bucket leather seat, which is quite comfortable. And so hopefully moving forward, maybe the next episode, we'll be in the same room together for the first time. We live literally 5 minutes away from each other.
Well,
but
first time recording.
Well, yeah. I've never met Tim. It's been a relationship of long distance, you know. No,
Complete
we literally
strangers.
5 minutes away. Saw you last night.
Man.
I guess like that's what I've been up to. I guess we've both been up to, at least in the immediate. We also, for the first time, saw our movie of the month together. I totally crashed you and your brother's movie night because I'm like, holy shit, I got homework. I got to watch this movie. Can I come?
And the missus there didn't want to watch, right? She was like, I'm
Jacqueline,
out.
I feel like it's a Jack movie for sure. I think Jacqueline would have liked it, but for whatever reason, I mean, I think she had just come off of work in 312, so she was a little tired, which is understandable. So she's like, you got to see it by yourself. I'm like, well, see a movie by myself. Those days are behind me, so I'm going to just crash Tim's movie night.
My brother does it all the time. I've never done it. It just feels weird, but there's plenty of people that do it and don't feel weird about it.
I used to do it when I had the movie pass, and I lived right next to a theater, and I never felt normal. Like it didn't go away. Like it still felt weird every time. So that feeling never went away for me, at least.
Yeah.
But Patrick's a different guy, you know. Like I feel like that kind of thing wouldn't really bother him. So
he's right now on his hammock, enjoying the daylight. Probably reading something Stephen King is my guess.
Which is, I don't think Stephen King envisioned people resting in a hammock outdoors reading his books.
Oh yeah, he's got his dog next to him,
yeah.
And the subject matter varies sometimes. Like King's more varied than people gave him credit for. Like,
as I'm literally looking at Stephen King's The Shining on my bookshelf, but you know they're not all horror movies.
They're not. Yeah.
So in the vein of keeping it movie themed and usually kind of kicking things off with a topic, Tim, I think we have one that we mutually can kind of talk about. We've talked about our best experiences in a movie theater. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say this is the worst experience, but I think we could say, and let us know in the comments. Let us know hit us up in our email, filmasweknowitpod@gmail.com. Hit us up in our DMs or when we post this in the comments. Let us know if you've ever had one. I'm sure we've all had that altercation, whether it was a moment in our head where we wanted to tell someone to shut the hell up, but we never did. Or you did, and things escalated. Tim, do you want to fill us in on why I'm leading to this? Because we literally just had this moment.
Well, to be fair, I think if I were to come up with like a list of like altercation moments in a movie theater, almost all of them would feature my brother.
Now, is
Um,
he the problem? I don't know. I think he's just the one that's willing to
no,
speak up, I
I
think is
think
what it
yeah,
is.
exactly. He's willing to speak up and, how dare you, not listen to the M&Ms or whoever's saying to silence your phones and all that
Oh, so
kind of
he gets
stuff.
mad
Yeah.
in the trailers because he stifled himself during the trailers, at
Oh,
least this
he
time.
usually will wait for the movie. He won't say anything
Okay.
until the movie, but I'm just saying like he will, they always have those like it's either whether it's M&Ms or somebody's telling you to silence your phones, whatever. Like if people don't listen to that, he will be sure to tell you once the movie has started.
I
Like
see.
one time I remember seeing a movie with him, and during the movie, this kid in front of us
Now, when you say
was
kid, how old? If you had to age him.
um maybe like 10. I'd say
Okay.
like
Well,
10,
right.
11, something like that. And he was on his phone a lot during the movie. And then he kind of leaned over like, "Hey kid, can you put your phone away? Thank you." And like I guess it wasn't his mom, but it was like some woman that was like sitting there next to him and was like, "How dare you? His mom is in the hospital right now," and like went off on my brother. And my brother was like, "Hey, listen, lady, we're all trying to watch a movie. Maybe he shouldn't be here right now if his mom is in the hospital. Thank you."
He's like, I don't give a shit about your mom in the hospital. I hope she dies because, and I hope you're on your phone when
So,
she dies and you miss it. You'll
to be
shit. Like,
honest,
oh my
I
God.
think my brother had a point. Like, if it's like he's checking his phone constantly because he's worried about his mom.
If he is worried about his mom. Now, on the other hand, I could see that maybe this is a way to get his mind off of his mom being in the hospital. But he's clearly not even watching
But
the
if
movie
it's
because he's on his
something that
phone.
you're having to check your phone constantly, then maybe that was not the
Also, I
right
love how
time.
in this moment, this 10 or 11-year-old is on their phone
Yeah.
constantly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Luca's 6. He doesn't have a phone. He's got a tablet, but
Yeah.
that's not a phone. You know what I mean? It's a little different.
Yeah. And so
Uh,
anyway, a few of
there's a lot to
my
unpack in that
altercations
situation.
have been, yeah, it's a big,
There's some
heavy
stuff going
conversation
on.
there,
It's a
right?
little
Yeah.
fishy over there. I don't really like it. I don't really like his mom.
This recent one that's happened that you were there for though, was less of a questionable, like, should he be allowed to be on his phone or whatever during a movie. But this guy that sat like in our same
Well,
row,
it was
but like a
awkward for
few
me because
seats
I was
down.
next to him,
Yeah, you were the closest to him.
and there was nobody between us. So I'm like, great, this
Yeah,
guy's just,
it was well, there was like a seat or so, right?
There was
But
3
yeah, there's
seats between myself and this man.
yeah, and his girlfriend was next to him on the far end,
Yes,
or whatever. Maybe not girlfriend, maybe date. I don't know. We don't
probably
know the
not after the
situation.
movie.
Yeah, maybe not. But this guy was pretty like loud and obnoxious right away.
Yeah,
Um, Spilling his popcorn everywhere. For some odd reason, he needed a
I think
flashlight
that
for it.
happened. I think that happened before Patrick said something, but that definitely didn't help his attitude at all,
I
as
know.
far
I
as I
remember
got.
noticing later the popcorn all over the place, and then I noticing like
Mm,
he needed to turn like the flash on his phone on to like see where his popcorn was or something, which is kind of odd. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, he was really loud and in talking to whoever this
Well, I
girl
wouldn't
was next to
necessarily
him.
talking. Like he came into the theater
Yeah,
late, mind you.
yeah,
Like I think there's maybe 2 trailers left. And you know how many trailers are in movies. And he was
it's
already like, I'm
getting
sick
kind
of
of
your
crazy.
shit. I'm sick of this always all the time. One of those conversations, not one for public, and certainly
Yeah.
not one while the movie's already in trailer mode. So that's how it started. And then it got amped. Patrick and I kind of locked eyes. And I looked at you. I kind of like looked over. I'm like, is Tim realizing this shit? Because like this is some crazy
I was
stuff right here.
ignoring.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
doing my best. I think I lived in Los Angeles enough to know that you ignore crazy for the most part because you
right.
just don't know. Patrick did
Yeah,
not. And
no,
so Patrick kind of leaned forward. Now, I can't remember the exact words. I don't know that he swore initially.
I don't think so.
I think what he first said was, "Hey buddy, we're trying to watch a movie. Can you keep it
Yeah,
down?" I think that's something
around that. Yeah,
authoritative. Sorry for burping into the microphone there. All this confrontation makes me gassy, I guess. But yeah, so that was the first instance. Now, the thing is, when there's someone being loud in a movie theater, when you say, hey, quiet down, it's never going to go well. I don't know of a single time. Let us know if it's gone well for you. And they're like, you know what? You're right. My volume is too high and I should just self-reflect a little bit and I should keep it down. You're right. Thank you I didn't realize. I've never had that happen. It's always going to not go well. However,
I've gotten looks, but people usually will quiet down, I feel like, for the most part, that I've been involved in.
I think it's when it's a guy, especially if it's a guy with on a date. There's a pride thing where it's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm a goddamn man. You don't tell me. I don't know. And I'll
I'm a man. I'm 40, right?
I'm a man. I'm 40. Yeah, he was definitely older. Slender guy. I definitely sized him up immediately when Patrick said something because I'm like, can we take him? Because I'm like, this could go that way. So yeah, so his immediate response, and I'll curb the swearing, but just envision like if you watch Walking Dead and you see Negan and his plethora of swear words, it was like that, like every other word. But the
a lot of F-bomb.
Yeah, but the ultimate message was, hey, shut the hell up. Don't talk to me like that. Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. But like on a volume 12, like way higher than you normally would. So now, and I think you and I both made this assumption that he's on something because that's not a normal reaction.
He was at 1,000.
Yeah,
like it was like turned up.
Yeah, and he's like literally like and you can see me, but he's like on the edge of his seat, like he's about to like come at us. His girlfriend's like, okay, come on, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Now I'm like, dude, has he killed someone like this before? Because she's like, it's not worth it again. Scared me.
I'm not gonna stop. You stop, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then Patrick doesn't help because he's like, yeah, okay. I don't know if he said this. It was something like, I don't think he said go fuck yourself, but it was something like, something to that baby. He's like, yeah, all right, buddy. Just be quiet and go something like that. And then he sat back down. I'm like, wow, I'm in between you guys. So I can feel the guy's eyes piercing through me to Patrick. I'm like, I said nothing. Let it be known. And now that the movie's starting, I'm like, kind of in my mind, like, well, if he comes at him, I might be able to kind of clock him. I might be able to kind of catch him by surprise. Like, I'm now planning this in my head because how do you not? The guy's clearly unhinged next to me. He's like rocking now, back and forth aggressively.
He's seeing an action movie. Is he going to get amped up?
Yeah, he's about to see a movie that we're going to talk about, which is a great segue, by the way, because we went to see Bullet Train, our movie of the month. And but yeah, so he's like seeing a movie that's like constant action, constant people beating each other up. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna do that after the movie. All the stuff you're seeing right there, this is giving me ideas for later with your face. And then the movie ended, and now I kind of come back to the reality of like crazy man next to me. And so now, I was worried that like he may do something. And so I'm kind of like side-eyeing him to see, but not obviously. And he's kind of curled up now and at this point. And I think to all of our assumption was that I think he came down off of whatever he was on, be it drugs or alcohol. I think he almost looked like he was snoozing. But I couldn't tell if he was pretending, like, because we didn't leave right away. Like, is he waiting for us to leave and then he's going to follow?
Yeah, because there is some like after credit stuff.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot about it at first. I like stood up and like, we thought we were done with
like,
that.
Life is good. What a movie.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it. And like, I think I looked at you and you were kind of like, is this guy? And I looked over and I was like, oh, he's asleep. This dude just crashed.
Yeah. Now we decided to make probably not the wisest decision to talk outside the movie theater. And so I kind of positioned myself so I could see him if he came out. And by the time he did come out, his girlfriend was already like freaking like 30 or 40 feet ahead of him. They were already in an argument that had started sometime between leaving the theater and leaving the building. And so they just kind of stormed off to the parking lot. I'm like, all right, well, that's done. Clearly he's got other stuff to worry about. I walked you to your car like the gentleman I am. Got to make sure you're safe out there. And and then I realized that he's parked right next to my car, like 3 cars away from my car on the opposite side. Mind you, this is like, we saw the movie at 9 or 8:55 show.
Yeah, but it didn't start till like 9:30.
Yeah, so it's like midnight. All right, in a dark parking lot. And now there's like nobody there except for that guy. He's not leaving. Like, it's almost comical at this point. Like almost if you were a betting man, be like, well, how long is it going to be before he leaves?
Yeah.
And he's just standing next to the driver door. I can't hear what he's saying, but I can hear he's yelling. They finally leave.
At one point they sped off, but then the car I saw was in a different part of the parking lot.
So they left. We start talking, and I thought they left. And then I realized that they had actually just gone around to the back of the parking lot And now they're like getting in and out. It's like a freaking what is that, Benny Hill thing where they're like going around the car after each other, yelling, getting in the car, then storming off. And then by the time I left, they were chasing each other in the parking lot. So hopefully nothing happened. That was some entertainment, but the real point of the reason that we're here is to review the movie of the month, which is Bullet Train. And I didn't take notes because this is the first time that we've done movie of the month where it's in a theater. And we just talked about that kid on his phone all the time. I didn't want to be that guy and be on my phone writing notes. So I kind of just tried to remember it all. But then all this stuff happened with that guy. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I remember most things. I was a little worried
You
there.
told me later that you like went home and typed some stuff up so you wouldn't forget about it. And I was like immediately like, man, I should have done that. Like, what was I thinking?
Well, maybe my notes will help jog your memory. But immediately was just like, let's write it down.
I wrote some stuff today, so hopefully, hopefully I won't remember all of it.
Let's see if we can keep it somewhat organized here. Maybe that'll help. But I want to say bullet train thoughts. See, I've got it on my phone right here, and clearly look at that. I got a Bible. I wrote notes.
Wow.
Well, let's start off with the story. So, what did you think about the story or the plot of the film? How did you feel like that was? Do you feel like it was predictable? I feel like it was interesting.
I thought it was pretty predictable. I thought right away it's like, oh, okay, he's, spoilers, by the way, everybody.
Yes, this is our spoiler alert. We'll cue an alarm. Spoiler, in-depth couch review is always spoilers.
We're going in on everything. Go see the movie. Pause, come back. But yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious, even from the trailer type of deal, that it was like multiple stories that are kind of related or characters that are related, that they all are going to be interconnected, that it's not just a coincidence type of thing. Like even at the point where they try to show like the flashback of the Mexican assassin, right?
Played by Bad Bunny, by the way, which is
so they I remember they're showing his background, and there's a point where they show like he gets bumped into by a waiter with a dude with long blonde hair, but you don't actually see the guy's face. So it's like right away you're like, okay, that's clearly Brad Pitt. But they don't try to clue you in that, but it's pretty obvious right away. So I just feel like there wasn't a whole lot plot wise. Like I think it was like they want to try to think that they're keeping you guessing, but you're really not. But that's not me trying to be negative. I know you're thinking I'm a negative now, Nelly over here, but
you got it's constructive feedback. That's all.
Yeah. So I mean, but it wasn't like bad. Like it didn't. It made sense. It was clear.
I don't think that its predictability hindered the film from being enjoyable or a good movie.
Exactly. But it's definitely nothing that's like keeps you guessing or anything like that.
Yeah, I think there were definitely some twists that you were kind of like, that kind of made sense. Like there's a constant hunt for the hornet that makes people bleed from their eyes, which is pretty aggressive. Let me say, pretty gnarly. And you're trying to figure out like who the hornet is, and then once you figured it out, it's kind of adds to the comedy. I'll say this: that the driving force throughout this movie that makes it enjoyable is the comedy. Even the action in a lot of ways is comedic. Like it's very funny. There's obviously that fight with Brad Pitt and was it Brian Tyree Henry in the quiet car, right? Where they're fighting, but they have to be quiet because this old lady doesn't care that they're fighting, or that he's about to draw a weapon. But she cares that they're being loud. That's the real.
I think that's kind of the joke throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, kind of like Patrick worrying about that guy being too loud in the theater. Very similar. He's that lady.
Because there's even the action scene where, like, with Aaron Taylor Johnson or whatever in like the food and beverage place, and like the lady does not care that everything is destroyed.
It's funny because when they film it, the angle that you see, it doesn't look too disheveled, but you also remembered the fight that just happened, so you know that like off camera, it's got to be a mess because they're throwing stuff at each other.
Well, they literally break through cabinets and shelving has been punched through and kicked through and all that kind of stuff. So it's like just grabbing some of the drinks and like snacks that she's grabbing. Like, how does she not see just broken crap everywhere? But I think that's part of the humor I think they were going for. Like almost all of the people were kind of oblivious to it. The only worker was like the ticket guy, which is hero from freaking
Which is such a
Heroes.
weird role for him to be. I mean, he's in it a lot though. In fairness, like he gets some screen
Yeah,
time.
I think he actually only gets really
He
2. Like
gets
he's
like
like
2 minutes of screen time, but it's like throughout the entire film, so you're constantly seeing him, despite it being short little moments. You keep
yeah,
like it's a thing that's constantly knowing Brad Pitt's character throughout the entire
right.
film is that guy.
I actually think they could have done more with him because I think he was there in the beginning about the
He should
ticket and
have
you have to get
been an
off here.
assassin. Clearly,
Yeah,
that would have made
that
sense.
yeah, that would have been better.
Yeah, I think it was cool because, like, obviously the majority of the film takes place on the train, which is
Yeah.
always interesting. How do you make that interesting when you're on the same set piece? And I think the biggest thing that they did really well was the set design and the lighting decisions for each of the cars. So every time you're in a different car, it feels like a different environment, despite you still being on the train. It just felt like it gave a different atmosphere. So that was kind of nice.
That's a good point.
The
I
other
feel like the
thing
only
that,
other movie I remember all on train is what's that Steven Seagal movie?
well, there, oh my God.
Under Siege, Dark Territory.
Little Steven Seagal. I'm a flippy like this, and we do a little flippity flop, and you're gonna go over here. All right, cool. Yeah, no, I think a phone booth is another one that with Colin Farrell, where a lot of it takes place in the same setting. The other thing that they do really well is they do a lot of either flashbacks to stuff that happened leading to all the people that come to the train. You kind of get their story to the most part to how they ended up on the train.
Yeah.
So that was another way to kind of get other set pieces in there outside of the train. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. You know, I don't think that any of those felt, you know, Suicide Squad did something similar in the first Suicide Squad, not the more recent one. Where they had like little trailers for the entries of all these people, but I feel like this was done a lot better. You know, not to crap on Suicide Squad. I worked on Justice League. I've been in the DC world. I've worked on a movie that got crapped on. I know. But
I'll say nothing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't hang that poster in here to save myself. But yeah, I thought the story was good. I thought it was interesting. It's kind of funny having Brad Pitt's character trying to lead this life of peace despite constantly getting into fights with people and trying not to kill them. And then ultimately he's just too good at his job and ends up killing them anyways. So it's like he's mad at himself. He's like, God dang it, I killed another one. You know, it's just kind of like, he's like, and it's like, it just happens to him. You know, I mean, it's kind of the thing where it's like, on the one hand, he's super lucky because he's always alive. Like he survives all these instances, but he's super unlucky in the fact that like he just stumbles into these terrible situations constantly. Right. What did you think about the acting? I mean, I felt like every character did a good job. I don't for the life of me know the lady, and I can look it up and pretend like I know. I can't remember the girl who plays the prince character.
Oh, it's what's her name from The Conjuring. I don't remember the actress's name, but she was the girl who gets possessed in the first Conjuring movie.
Oh my God, she is. I was wondering where I saw her from, and
I know. I had to look it up later. I was like, oh my gosh,
Joey King. She plays the prince. I thought she did a fantastic job of being absolutely despicable and me hating the ever-loving crap out of her.
The Diesel?
She was the Diesel.
She was the Diesel.
And I think that was a funny thing too. I honestly, I gotta say, you know, I love Tangerine and Lemon. They're my standout. I would watch a movie of Tangerine and Lemon.
Yeah, give us a prequel of just the two of them together.
You got your Hobbs and Shaw. Give me a Lemon and Tangerine.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. You know, the director directed that right?
I know. That was a subtle little
nod. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought their whole dialogue was hilarious, and the reason we bring that up is because obviously Lemon is obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine, obviously because they're British, so it's not Thomas the Train over there, and it's just hilarious because he's like constantly comparing. He's like, it taught me how to read people, and now I'll know how to read everybody because of this show. And he's like constantly looking for the Diesel. There's a Diesel that's trying some trouble up here. I don't know who he is, and it's freaking hilarious.
In a movie where Brad Pitt, you know, is going full, I am charismatic as heck, and I will carry every scene because I have so much charisma.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing how the two of them almost stole the movie at times. Yeah, together they were hilarious.
I wanted more. Even by themselves, they're funny. Like just how the stories carry through. But yeah, the funniest thing is like they're constantly like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character Tangerine is always mad at him for talking about freaking Thomas the Tank Engine, and then every time he meets someone new, Lemon, Brian Tyree Henry's character is constantly talking about freaking Thomas the Tank Engine. And in fairness, it's like, because it comes up perfectly in the comments, like, oh, this is a perfect way for me to segue into Thomas the Tank Engine, because he'll have a moment for this. And it makes sense in fairness, and it ends up having a really big story to play, because the girl, the prince, is always getting away with everything. She plays this damsel in distress, right? She's very maniacal, very manipulative, a crazy lady, if you will. But she plays the whole like, oh, I don't know what's happening. Oh, I'm so lost. Help me. I'm the innocent victim. And there's a whole moment. I mean, sadly, that is probably one of the saddest things in the show. I mean, it's a very comedic film, but the lemon and tangerine and how that ends, freaking Lemon gets shot by her, and you think he's dead. Spoilers again. And the way that he marks her is he puts a freaking diesel sticker on her. And so when Tangerine faces her and everything, and he's like, oh, it's okay. He's buying it. He's totally buying her what she's selling. Yeah. But then he sees the diesel sticker and he's like, oh, well, that's kind of weird that you have a diesel sticker on you. And then he immediately is kind of putting two to two together, which then leads to, again, another unfortunate death on Brad Pitt's hands, because he totally buys that this girl is innocent. They get into a fight, and then he ends up killing Tangerine. There's no coming back from that, too. Like, he really got...
Ladybug, Brad Pitt's character really never figures it out. He gets told kind of later. He does not read people like the others do.
He doesn't read people well. He is not as well an astute as Lemon was, for instance. Which I love I love the random stuff that kind of comes in, the very, I guess, the Ocean's 11-ish way that they film the ending of this movie, where you start to get all the other plots that you weren't seeing off camera that were happening start to come into fold, and then that explains like what you were seeing.
Like the water bottle.
The water bottle was a great character. I love how they filmed it. I would love to know if that was an actual water bottle attached to a camera setup, or if it was a CG water bottle. I'd be very curious to see how they did that, because it's really unique, and some of the angles that they get with that camera, where it goes, I wonder if you could have still achieved that with a camera rig, getting into some of the tight spaces. But yeah, it's hilarious. But also Lemon coming in with the tangerine truck and absolutely destroying that lady, right? Full karma. Yeah. And it's funny because like when you see it happen, you're like, oh, well, that's karma. Also hilarious that it was a truck full of tangerines, only to then find out later, again, in that Ocean's 11 moment where you're seeing all the other things kind of come to play or come to a head, is that it's Lemon driving the truck full of tangerines. Yeah. It's great. I love him. Can we talk about, again, getting back to the acting, he is an American actor.
Yeah. From Atlanta. I think he's actually from Atlanta.
Yeah. And I never, he did such a good job that I thought, is he one of those British actors that does a really good American accent, like Idris Elba in The Wire, and I just didn't know. And I look him up, and because Aaron Taylor Johnson is British. Now, whether he sounds like that, probably not. It's probably a different type or a different dialect for sure. Yeah. Or regional. But yeah, Brian Tyree Henry did a fantastic job. I think it got away from him a couple of times, but for the most part, again, it was so convincing that I thought maybe I just didn't think of it. I'm like, oh, well, that's, I just assumed that was his accent, so I didn't really question
I did have to double check because I didn't want to sound stupid.
It was so good.
Oh, he actually is British or something, like one of those weird things.
And you get Guy Ritchie vibes from the movie, and I think that they really play to that because they feel like they would fit perfectly into a Guy Ritchie film. Guy Ritchie, if you watch that movie or you're listening to this podcast, you should cast these two because they're fantastic together.
That would be one of my criticisms. Was it did seem like this guy, the director here, was trying to do a Guy Ritchie impersonation at times. Lemon and Tangerine basically were Turkish and Tommy. The kind of conversations they have in Snatch are very, very similar to what we just Lemon and Tangerine are doing. But they pull it off. So it's not like it's like someone's badly doing a Guy Ritchie impersonation. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think that's the best thing this movie's got going for it is amazingly well casted, and everybody is just throwing 1,000 and just not pulling punches, and they're doing really good, and they all have camaraderie. And
Bad Bunny did good. He doesn't talk much, but he does great with his body, his behavior. like physical acting, I think he does really well. Like you read all of his pain on his eyes, on his face. You feel that torment, and then you feel it in his movements and in the action. And that's another thing I really got to mention pretty heavily here. Now, I work in visual effects, so I know that there's a lot of trickery that can happen, especially with stunt fights and fight choreography. The way that you film stuff, a lot of times the old hat was film it so that you don't see their face, film it wide, or film it really close so you don't really know what's going on. And you don't have to replace their face, right? Now you can do that. You can digitally replace them. Logan stands out to me as one of the first films to really just absolutely nail face replacement on stunt performers. Like I've never seen it at that level. Like even when I saw the breakdowns coming out, I was shocked to realize that like even in one of the scenes where he's driving, it's a stunt driver and it's like right in camera, like full on, like it's just Hugh Jackman. And it wasn't Hugh Jackman. They replaced his face. I'm like, holy crap, man. It's just, and that movie is older. Like you don't think that it is, but I mean, Logan, let's see. Logan came out in 2017.
I was off by a year.
So, we've advanced a lot, obviously, now with deepfake, which you can see in Mandalorian a lot, at various stages, right? From Mandalorian to Boba Fett and how much that improved just in a year. So I think that there probably is some digital face replacement, but I also think that I think a lot of the actors probably did some of the fight scenes. I don't know how they did it because they film it in a way that's very akin to John Wick in the sense that it's like, I don't know how you film this without that actually being the actor because the way that they choose to shoot it, they're medium close-up shots. Yeah. Like, unless you're replacing their face, that's the actor because you see their face very clearly.
And it depends because there's different action sequences that definitely required more CG. Like the end action sequence is way more heavily CG.
It is the coolest though. It's graphic, but like seeing his sword, the character, the elder, his sword go through the seat and then through the guy in slow motion. It was like, obviously very graphic, but very satisfying. Like it just looked awesome on camera. It's insane. You've got bullets, hits going on and sparks going on during these slow-mos, and then you see the fabric of the seat like in the air as it's ripping through it and then it's just crazy. Super stylized film.
I was worried. One of the things I was worried about was like too much of the trailer, like too much of the movies in the trailer. We saw too much of it already. And I will say like almost every action sequence in this movie was in the trailer, but there is so much more in the movie. So I was pleasantly surprised. Like, again, some cool CG stuff, like you were just saying. There is also way more blood and violence that you don't see in the trailer that's in the movie. Seeing a sword go completely through some guy's face and mask and such, like, so like, which was surprisingly awesome to watch. So like, I was really happy that like, okay, there is a lot of the trailer. This movie is just a lot of the trailer, but there's still some added stuff here that makes this so enjoyable to watch. And that was definitely
for sure. It's funny because there was a lot of cameos. It was awesome. I think they did cameos really well. Channing Tatum, I love that guy, man. I just saw a clip on YouTube of Seth Rogen talking about, I think it was This Is the End or something like that. Was that the movie that they did, right? This Is the End?
I think so. The one where like the world is over and they're like all like who's gonna
this
get
is the end.
Up?
Yeah. And they were talking about how they were like trying to get Channing Tatum to play the Gimp essentially. And they're like, I don't know if he's gonna go for that. He's like, no, he's always going for interesting roles. Like he's down to try weird stuff. And so he did, and it's hilarious. You just don't see that coming.
He's way better as more of a character type actor and doing comedy. He's surprisingly great at comedy than he is being the straight man.
Yeah, the action hero, he's got the physique for it, and I think he can do it well. Don't get me wrong, like he does do it well. But like Foxcatcher is a good example of like a good dramatic role for him, right? As a character actor. And then you look at him in like the comedy roles are some of my favorite for him, like 21 Jump Street, the Jump Street movies in general.
Or
and in this, he's comedic.
What's the Tarantino movie? Crazy Eight, right? Or Hateful
Eight. The Hateful Eight. Yeah, I forget that he's in that too. Also, really good.
Pops up and nails it.
Yeah, and he kills it. Yeah, I love him in comedic roles. I think it's the same with John Cena, right? Because it flips it on its head. You think, oh, well, these guys are big dudes. They should play only action roles. And they kind of both started that way because I think John Cena did, what was it, The Marine or whatever? He did that movie.
Yeah.
And that was, again, like they're like, oh, he's a big WWE guy. Throw him in an action movie, whatever. And honestly, where he really shines is in roles like Peacemaker, or like even Cock Blockers, like where he's funny. Like he's a really funny guy, genuinely.
I think what's one of the first things I saw him do comedy was it Trainwreck?
Oh yeah. I don't like freaking Amy Schumer, but
okay.
yeah.
But he's got a scene, a couple scenes in there with Amy Schumer, and he like steals the scene. Like he's hilarious in that.
There's a movie with Tina Fey and I think Amy Poehler. I can't remember the name of the movie, but he plays like a drug dealer that's got like face tattoos, and she asks him like what his. There's a really funny thing where she asks him like what a safe word would be, and he's like, "Don't stop" or something really gnarly like that.
What is that? Is that Baby Mama or something?
I think it is Baby Mama, man. Okay. Oh, that's why I have you as my co-host. I genuinely think it's Baby Mama.
Well, I'm trying to think of like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey movie together, and that's the only thing that I can think of.
Maybe. I think it might have been it's Sisters. It's Sisters. Getting the Party Started with John Cena is the if you look it up on YouTube, we'll put it in the link dump. But it's freaking hilarious. It cracks me up every time. But yeah, he's great comedically, you know. And don't get me wrong, he's great in action. I mean, Peacemaker's a great example of both, right?
Great show, yeah.
Highly recommend. But yeah, so getting back to the movie,
Ryan Reynolds was another guest.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds. That was literally a cameo because he didn't even say anything. Channing Tatum actually had some funny moments.
He had two scenes. He had like two little speaking moments. Yeah.
Circled back.
Is this a sex thing?
Yeah, is this a sex thing? Because he's like thinks that he wants to take him to the bathroom, you know, for a sex thing, and he really just wants to change clothes.
I wonder if that came up while doing The Lost City.
And you know, it's funny because they both have cameos in each, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because Brad Pitt plays the handsome rescuer.
Yeah, my dad was a weatherman, yeah.
Which is the great line. I feel like wasted in the trailer, but definitely made me want to watch the movie in fairness because it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, were there any that kind of... We're talking about acting here. Were there any that didn't... You know, it's a well-casted movie, I think.
Yeah.
But I think that there were definitely a couple of pitfalls. Now, I think you had a big issue with the White Death.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I like Michael Shannon a lot. Right? Mm-hmm. I get that right? Michael Shannon.
It's Michael Shannon.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't completely mess that up. Yeah, Michael Shannon I like him a lot. Man, I've seen him in so many things.
Boardwalk
Empire, right?
Oh,
he's so good in that show. Yeah. I loved, actually, as much as Man of Steel has its problems, I thought him being Zod was not one of them. I'm a big fan of Michael Shannon.
He's good in Iceman too, where he played the killer, right, for the mob.
Yeah. So I'm a fan. I just didn't. It was either they needed to change some of the story or writing, or they just miscast because it just didn't quite fit for me, for a couple of reasons. One, his Russian accent was pretty bad.
It came and it went, and when it was there, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it was not great. That, and like, it's weird. Like, they had this like pseudo backstory was they think he was ex-KGB, and they had this whole flashback type situation going on with the elder was apparently there too, and they show the elder, and he's like this young guy with a young family, but they don't show the White Death. They only show him in a mask
and
with some long hair.
In those flashbacks, he's still got gray hair, so you would think he'd be way older now.
And all that, so they show Michael Shannon later. And maybe this is nitpicky, but like they show him later, he's still got some gray hair that's long. Where I'm like, you see the elder aged a lot, and Michael Shannon, like I'm not quite seeing it. Like, it just didn't fit for me. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Not to say that Hiroyuki Sanada looks bad, because I mean he's a great actor, but I think they aged him up though for the role. I think that's not how he normally looks. They definitely aged him up.
But I just don't understand how they didn't like at least have Michael Shannon aged him up a little bit more, or make him not KGB, because age-wise that doesn't quite make sense. Although
we don't know the time frame either when this was set, but I think the biggest thing is there clearly wasn't a jump in time because
Right.
of the Elder's character, right? That
Right.
really
They
kind of
clearly
solidifies
show a
that.
big age jump for his character. So it just was odd to me. So I thought it could have been better. I understand why to cast Michael Shannon because he's amazing. I don't think there's many people that can pull off. I'm not going to mess with that guy. He
Yeah, he's got that good
scares
look,
the
the
life out of
stare.
me. Yeah, exactly. Like he's got crazy eyes. He can go nuts at any second type of deal. You don't want to mess with him. And I think that is great. And I understand that. So that's why I'm like, maybe if they changed up something so you could have kept him, or they just should have casted somebody else. Like it just odd fit for me. Didn't ruin the movie though at all.
Well, it's funny because we had so many weird cameos or unexpected, I don't want to say weird, but unexpected cameos that every time I saw the White Death, I mean, obviously in the fight scenes, the dude looks pretty good. You know, he's like kind of jacked up. He's got all these tattoos. But like when you see him more obscured in the other scenes, I'm going to be honest with you. I really thought it might be Steven Tyler, which is a weird one. But he kind of had the same hair. He was dressed kind of in a way that was very Steven Tyler-like. I wouldn't have been surprised if, I mean, given some of the cameos that they chose, it would be interesting. The difference, though, is you start to realize that he's been the one that's been talking on the phone a lot.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more speaking. And then I don't know how, Steven Tyler would do in a speaking role. I think if it was kind of like a Ryan Reynolds type cameo, you just see him. Plus, there's a lot of fight scenes in the end that he would have had to have really been able to do that. Because I do feel like Michael Shannon was pretty involved in those. But I don't know. Again.
Yeah. And it's like you would think like they're clearly trying to hide like, oh, who's the White Death going to be?
I mean, they show it in the trailer. I mean, we even show it in our movie of the month announcement. You see
That's why I was saying, like, why are we putting him in a mask and almost hiding it throughout the whole movie? And it's like, okay, it's exactly who I thought it was going to be.
Speaking of actors or actresses that I thought were good but could have been better, honestly, the Hornet. I love Zazie Beetz. I love her, but I think it was more her dialogue that got me than her. Like, I think she was great, and she definitely brought the intensity to the scene that made it funny. But the thing that kind of, like, it reminded me of Rick and Morty with freaking, oh my God, Scary Terry. He's like, you can run, but you can't hide, bitch. Like, oh, bitch. Oh, like every other word is bitch, and that was literally her character. She's like, oh, what are you doing, bitch? Like she kept saying bitch, like, oh, you got me, you bitch. Like it was always bitch, which I mean, I guess it's to her character, right? Her personality, but it just seemed a little overplayed. And honestly, the entire time that she's talking, I'm just thinking of Scary Terry.
Her where death though was probably one of the funniest parts of the movie. Yeah, it was pretty great. The Brad Pitt delivery of like, can I get you something?
Yeah, he's like, can I get you some water? Maybe? Do you want me to hold your hand?
And she has some great facial reactions really of like, I can't believe you just did that. Like, I'm gonna die now. And
oh my God. Well, and it's funny because again, the Hornet kills people with the snake venom. Yeah. And and it's funny because obviously in that scene, like Brad Pitt gets a anti-venom, so he's okay. But then he gets bit later on in the movie, and I'm like, wait, is he gonna die now? And I almost forgot how anti-venom works. But then he's like, well, technically I'm okay because I already surprisingly got a dose of this earlier. Like that's a line he says. But I did almost forget. I'm like, oh shit, now he's gonna die. Like I liked his character, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, he got an anti-venom, so he's fine. But yeah. And then it was literally snakes. It was kind of, you could make the argument snakes on a train, right? That could have been a parody poster because there's a snake on the train.
Right. That snake too, you knew was going to come. It was definitely, what do you call it? Foreshadowed, right? Like,
for sure.
You see that snake throughout the whole movie. A different character sees the snake at different points throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me see if there's any other notes real quick. I'm sure there are. Let me see here. Let's see. The direction I thought was pretty great. The cinematography was, as we kind of touched on already, very fantastic, and the fight choreography was great. Yeah. I love a good fight scene where they don't try to hide it by being too close. Like actually film the fight scene. There's, and again, that really comes down to the actors or the stunt performers, and how you're going to shoot it. But if you can get actors that can actually do the action, then you can really film it really well. I mean, that's why the John Wick movies look as good as they do, because they trained Keanu Reeves up and he's doing a lot of those scenes. Really, like I said, the only way you're going to get certain shots like that is if they're doing it or you're doing a face replacement. There's really no other way to do it. Yeah. But it really is great. I realize now after watching the movie that I have to watch more Thomas the Tank Engine, and learn some life lessons. Maybe I got to get Luke on that. So he's kind of too old for that, I feel like now.
He
But
is. He is
clearly,
too old
Lemon
for it.
wasn't too old for it, and he was like a 30 or 40-year-old man in this movie.
I remember that show back in the day. I don't think it quite hit with me ever. I
No, it
thought it
never
was
hit with
mostly
me. I thought it
boring.
was weird. I didn't like his face. It
Yeah.
seemed odd to me. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
The VFX in the film were, for the most part, pretty superb. I think some of the bigger scenes towards the end, again, we've well spoiled the movie now, but with the train crash at the end, could have probably been a little bit better. I do think that there was definitely some moments where you could kind of see the edges weren't that great. Again, I'm nitpicking, but this is the VFX artist in me / producer now.
That's fair.
But I don't think that it took away from it either. I think it was still good. Overall notes, let's see what I got here. I'd say that based on the trailer, I was reserved going into the film. Again, to your point, I was worried about seeing too much and if it was going to, be good or not. It kind of made me a little hesitant. I would say if I had to rate it, I would say probably a solid 8. And I'm curious what you would rate it. I would say it's definitely very much a Guy Ritchie style film, but set in the colorful world of Japan.
Yeah.
I again love the style of the film. The writing was pretty damn great. I felt nearly all the comedic moments hit perfect. I don't feel like any fell flat, which again had to do a lot with the delivery by the actors. But it was a really fun movie. Again, a lemon and tangerine movie. I'm here for it. I want more of it. If there's a director's cut that's got more scenes with them cut into it, I want it.
Yeah.
Give me an extended version with like 20 minutes extra scenes of lemon and tangerine, or we're great. What did you think? What if you had to surmise kind of like your review, and what would you rate it?
I gotta think about this. I definitely liked it. I think overall I liked it better than our last movie.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one a bit more. I think
Definitely
it
a
had
different
a lot more
movie,
to go
but
with it. Yeah, definitely different movies, but I just think overall enjoyment coming at the end of the movie, like I was more entertained by this movie. I like any kind of my nitpicks here. I don't think any of it is as flawed as my one issue with Hustle. Like my one main issue with Hustle, I think made that movie a pretty big flaw.
Yeah, it changed my perspective of the movie, honestly.
And there's nothing in here for that. I mean, the biggest complaint really I have is it's a Guy Ritchie impersonation and the Michael Shannon kind of issue, but none of that took away from my enjoyment of the movie. So I was pleasantly surprised. Trying to remember what I gave Hustle, so I'm not like
I think you gave
messing
like
it
a
up.
6.5. I think we ended on I think
6.5?
you gave it a 6 and I said 7. I think we ended on 6.5.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. But let us know in the comments if we're wrong.
I feel like I can go 7.5, 8 range.
Yeah.
I think so. Like, I don't know if I would like, I mean, you said like, I think I'd buy it. I'm like, I don't know if I'd go out and buy it, but it might be one of those things like if it's on TV or someone has it on, like I'm going to probably get sucked in and watch it. But I don't know if like, I'm going to go out of my way to go watch it again.
Something tells me, given the amount of violence in this movie, probably not going to be on TV, at least not on your TNT. Or AMC.
Got enough movie channels.
They would have to recut that pretty
HBO
heavily.
Or something. I'm trying to look at this guy's still pretty. What is it? David Leitch? Is that right? Leitch? What's his name? The director? David.
Yeah.
Leitch?
You gotta hit me when I freaking finally come off of the page. I sounded so informative earlier, but I had the cast in front of me.
Yeah, I'm just looking at his IMDb credits now. I'm just kind of curious because he's still
David
pretty
Leitch or
new.
Leitch or however you would say that. Leitch.
Uncredited for John Wick, so I'm curious how much he got to do on John Wick because it's uncredited. And then his first real big movie was Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, and then Bullet Train. So it's a pretty short list of movies, but I think so far he's on a pretty good.
I gotta say that's an interesting one. Obviously being in the industry, I'm not unaccustomed to, credits and not getting credited for certain things, stuff like that. But I don't think that I've ever seen a director uncredited before. At least like in the sense of like a movie, like a music video, maybe you're not going to see credits for that. But like, because uncredited essentially means that it wasn't on screen. You didn't see a credit for that guy. Yeah. It's kind of weird that he's listed as an uncredited director for the movie. That's kind of a big deal to be a director of a movie.
I guess maybe he directed like an episode, or not episode, sorry, but like a couple scenes or something. Like it's kind of interesting.
If I remember correctly, though, I think it was. Oh God! Hold on a second.
I'm sure we could figure this out if we could.
We're gonna hash it out. So Tim Miller, is it Tim Miller? I don't think it's.
Well,
Tim
he's
Miller.
the one who did Deadpool. Tim Miller did Deadpool.
I'm looking for. I'm not looking for Tim Miller. I'm looking for the guys that did John Wick, which he's one of them. Hold on, let me pull up John Wick. Hold on one second. One moment. We're gonna suss this out right now. Because if I recall correctly, it was Chad. Yeah, so Chad Stileski is also a stunt guy, I believe. Yeah. So they were like a tag team, director team, like that used to be former stuntmen, stunt choreographers.
Chad here is credited the director. David is credited as the producer. This is due to DGA regulations allowing for only one director to be credited.
Yeah, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing interviews with them, and they were like stunt choreographers, and stunt guys, and that's why John Wick had such a interesting look about it. Because you basically give the stunt choreographer the keys to the film. Obviously, stuff's gonna look awesome, right? Especially with their former credits, as stunt performers and choreographers and what they've worked on. Not to get too off the rails. But yeah,
so I'm just curious to take a look because it's interesting. Because obviously, if we're gonna count John Wick as a movie he did, since apparently he co-directed, John Wick's definitely the best thing he's done. I enjoyed Atomic Blonde, but I don't know about if I'm gonna rewatch Deadpool 2. I liked. I've rewatched that one a couple of times. I was disappointed in Hobbs and Shaw because that was another one where like everything was in the trailer.
Yeah.
And now I've kind of enjoyed Bullet Train, so I feel like he's on a like he's never made anything bad. Like.
Yeah,
even Hobbs and Shaw, as disappointing as it was for me, like it was
for
still
what it is,
enjoyable.
though. I think it hit what it was going out for, at least.
Yeah, it'd be low on my Fast and the Furious rankings, but like it wasn't like
future list right there. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, I mean, let's go.
Stretch.
Let's go to the internet here real quick. Let's see what people are thinking about Bullet Train. Getting it back here. Ashley Saunders on Twitter said the cast is brilliant, the action is over the top in the best ways, creative camera work, and it's fucking hilarious. So there you go. Let's see. Give me another ticket to ride the Bullet Train ASAP. That's great. It's a great tagline. AKM said, after watching Bullet Train, I think these two guys, referring to Tangerine and Lemon, deserve their solo spin-off movie. I could not agree more. Let's see. Let's see if we got any from when we kind of looked into it. Obviously, if you would like to be featured on a future episode of our Movie of the Month episode with a review, you can always email a written or an audio review. Audio reviews we would like to keep at 30 seconds if possible, of your review of our Movie of the Month. But let's see here. I think we actually got one. I think it's literally your brother, Patrick, had a review. Let's see. He said, went to see Bullet Train tonight, and against all odds, I had a really good time. Let's see. He mentions a little bit about the the guy. Well, let's see what he said about it. Should we see what his recollection of the incident with the man? Well, first off, I had to remind management to mask the screen during the previews so the picture wasn't blurry and fit the screen. That was a thing. And then I had to politely ask a cranked up yuppie ass to shut his fucking mouth. Prick stared me down and like he wanted to start something, but he quieted down and 90% sure he came down off of whatever he was on and passed out. So my blood is up. And it took me a little bit to get out of my head, but the movie came through. Lots of laughs, solid fight scenes. I mean, again, hey, his blood's amped up. Maybe this is the movie for that instance, right? But yeah, he said lots of laughs, solid fight scenes. Pitt is doing a more competent version of his character from the Mexican, and it works. Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson are the standouts, and I'm fully on board for a Lemon and Tangerine spinoff. There you go. So that's Patrick. You can see him on Twitter at PatJC83. And he's got a really great Twitter account. I follow him on my personal Twitter account. He's great. He's always posting really fun film stuff. He does that frame game where you get a single frame of a movie and you have to guess what the movie is, and you only get so many guesses. You get
Yeah,
hints along the way, and that's kind of fun.
it is fun. I
But
couldn't do today's. I have to say, I was stumped on today's.
I think he got stumped by today's too, didn't he?
He eventually got it. I didn't get it at all.
Oh
I
yeah, I
actually
didn't get
ran
it.
out of time, but to I didn't use up all my guesses yet. But
No, for
definitely a movie
sure.
I've not seen.
So next week, we've got some interesting stuff coming up. So, next week obviously will be our Tales from the Set. I think is what we're kind of settle on here.
Yeah,
What movie are we going to do Tales from the Set for?
we're gonna do Mad Max Fury Road.
Exciting. I love that movie. Definitely a more current film than our last
Yeah.
trip down Tales from the Set. Can you give me a teaser? Can you give me a taste of a weird thing that happened that's not going to be the coolest thing so we get people to listen to the episode?
I guess if I mean, most people already kind of know that maybe some of the stars of this movie didn't quite get along, but there's so much more going on in this movie. I mean, this movie was supposed to be made so much longer ago. Mel Gibson attached on and off. The locations is actually where they filmed it, and how it wouldn't have been legal to film it in other places.
All right, say less.
So
I'm interested.
there's lots of stuff going on with this one that's pretty fun, beyond
Wow.
the stars not getting along.
We're going to film it here because it's illegal to do what we want to do elsewhere. That already is a little bit shady, but interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, it turned out well. The movie's fantastic. Again, kind of in the vein of Chinatown had its issues, but the movie turned out great. Not that a movie has to have a bunch of drama or issues to be good, but we like to talk about it because it's always interesting. It's the stuff you don't really necessarily hear about.
Yeah.
Now, the other reason why I think next week's is interesting is we are going to have a recording session of our first ever, I guess, celebrity guest spot or our guest interview. We're going to have a guest episode. So normally, as you saw this past month, we take a week off. And that's to kind of give us time to prep for all the other episodes. We were trying to figure out a way to come up with something for that bye week. And I think what we're going to do is, well, we're going to do it. I booked the guest already. Is Tim and I are going to have a guest on the show. I'm not going to mention who it is just yet, but we will make an announcement as we get closer. But that'll be towards the end of the month. But we're going to have them on. We're going to do a movie grab bag of questions and see what their experience has been like in film, you know, what their favorite movies are, what gets them excited about movies. And then they're going to play Trial by Contacts with us. And I think, Tim, since you won Trial by Contacts this month, maybe you get to play with our guest. No reason for all three of us to play, and then next time I'll play, and we'll kind of alternate. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a new thing to add to the show to kind of, you know, spice things up a little bit and also make sure that you guys are getting weekly content now. And it makes it easier for us because we only have to book a guest once a month, as I can only imagine, having done this before with Film Reviewed Podcast. Booking guests can be really challenging, especially when you got to do it on a week-to-week basis. So friend of the show, friend to me personally, is going to be on the show, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. He's great. Very comedic guy. It's a he, so there you go. Hint number one, it is a man. But yeah, so that is next week. We've got, like I said, our Tales from the Set. Following that, we'll have our first guest episode. Tim, do you want to lead us out for the show and wrap us up here today?
All right, so that wraps this week's episode. Please show your support for the podcast by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or wherever you happen to listen to the show. Also, sharing with your friends never hurts. Be sure to follow us on social media to get the latest show updates. You can find us by searching for the hashtag filmasweknowitpod. Thank you for turning into another episode of the Film As We Know It podcast. Have a good one.
Have a great week, and check us out on YouTube. Check out the video if it's there. If it's not, then you didn't hear this line. But if you can, check us out. You'll see our beautiful faces finally instead of just a poster. So, all right, awesome. Have a week.